The Trump-Russia scandal is now undeniably, beyond any doubt, directly involving Donald Trump personally. Involvement in the lies has now reached the President of the United States. When we saw that email chain related to Trump Jr.'s meeting with the Russian lawyer in Trump Tower for the purposes of obtaining dirt on Hillary Clinton, we had for the first time in writing confirmation of the intent to collude with Russia for the benefit of Trump to the detriment of Hillary Clinton. However, we were told at the time that Donald Trump was personally not involved at all. And we were specifically told by Trump's lawyer, Jay Sekulow, a number of times that the statement, which we now know was riddled with inaccuracies, some people would call them lies, that Donald Trump Jr. and his lawyer put that statement together, that the President of the United States was not at all involved in that statement we received, which was a lie. It was an inaccurate statement from Trump Jr. Here is Jay Sekulow, Trump's lawyer, in no uncertain terms on Meet the Press saying, nope, Trump was not involved in that statement.
So I read those reports as well, and the president did not draft the response. The response came from Donald Trump Jr., and I'm sure in consultation with his lawyer. So that is where that statement, again, I think it's important to understand when the information, as the information was to be released a few days later, but as the information became public, my understanding is that Donald Trump Jr. and his lawyer worked on a statement to make regarding the scope of the meeting, and the scope of the meeting, that what was discussed at the meeting actually ended up being more about the Maginski Act than anything else.
Okay, so Chuck Todd is actually smart here. He says, okay, well, hold on. Forget about whether he drafted it. That's very specific language you're using. Was he involved in it? And Jay Sekulow is still adamant that Trump wasn't involved. Okay, part two.
That's really what this was about.
You were very careful to say the president didn't draft the statement. That isn't what I asked. Did the president get a heads up on the statement? Did he sign off on the statement? Was he asked to read the statement before it was given to the New York Times on Air Force One?
No, I mean, I can't say whether the president was told the statement was going to be coming from his son on that. I don't have that. I didn't have that conversation. And let me say this. The president, but I do want to be clear, the president was not involved in the drafting of the statement and did not issue the statement. It came from Donald Trump Jr. So that's what I can tell you.
4 days before that interview on ABC's Good Morning America with George Stephanopoulos, another conversation, which we will put the transcript of up on the screen for you, where George Stephanopoulos said, that does raise another set of questions, because the New York Times is reporting this morning the president signed off on the initial statement on Saturday, on the initial statement from Don Jr. on Saturday, but didn't mention the emails, didn't really go into any great detail on the meeting, in fact, was misleading about the meeting. So the president signed off on that statement. Does he feel he was misled by his son and by Jared Kushner if indeed they didn't tell him about these emails that they both received? And Sekulow responded, the president didn't sign off on anything. He was coming back from the G20 summit. The statement that was released on Saturday was released by Donald Trump Jr., and I'm sure in consultation with his lawyers. The president wasn't involved in that. Stephanopoulos continued, well, the New York Times says that he was involved in it, that several people on the plane were involved in it as well. So you're disputing, and Sekulow interrupts, that's incorrect. Well, we have now learned that was all a lie. On the flight home from the G20 meeting in Germany, Donald Trump personally dictated the statement in which Donald Trump Jr. said they were talking only about Russian kids, which we now know was a straight up, bold-faced lie. And even Jay Sekulow's attempts to wordsmith a technically true statement failed, because if you dictate a statement, you're verbally drafting the statement, period. And this, of course, in and of itself is not a crime, but it's another attempt, Pat, to hide the truth about contacts with Russia. And this was a lie that came straight from the horse's mouth. Donald Trump is personally involved in the lies now.
And it sounds like all of the other advisors on Air Force One with him wanted to just get the whole story out to begin with, knowing that the New York Times could use that drip method and catch them in a bunch of lies.
Right.
Instead, Trump went with this method, which caught Don Jr., his own son, in 4 or 5 different lies there. So, I mean, that's just not very politically savvy, is it?
Oh, well, absolutely not. And think about how far it's gone, right? There was no meeting. Well, the meeting happened, but it was about Russian adoption, and Hillary dirt was never mentioned. Well, the meeting happened and Hillary dirt was promised, but it wasn't actually provided. But Trump Sr. wasn't involved in any statements about it. 2, well, the meeting happened and the pretense was Hillary dirt, and Donald Trump did come up with a statement about the meeting, which turned out to be a lie. But there's nothing to see here because no crime was committed. And in all of this, we're supposed to believe the guy who came up with a statement about what happened at a meeting that he supposedly knew nothing about. Remember that at the core of this is still the assertion that Trump Sr. didn't know about the meeting. That hasn't yet been disproven, although it seems incredibly unlikely. Why would someone who has no idea about this meeting be dictating a statement about it? That also doesn't make any sense.
And if this meeting was just a nothing burger, as Reince Priebus said, and they actually just talked about Russian adoption the whole time, why would Trump even care to hide it up?
Yeah, that's the thing. If you have nothing to hide, why are you constantly lying and deceiving? And I don't remember who came up with this term at first, but I think stupid Watergate is a good term for what's going on. That was John Oliver. Okay. The revelations have sort of been working their way all the way up to the top of the food chain, and it's really sort of the hubris and stupidity that could end up being Donald Trump's downfall. He seems to genuinely think no one can figure out his lies, period. No one can touch him. And the more he talks, the worse it seems to get. The video you just watched was made possible by support from you. Please go to patreon.com/David Pakman Show. You can make a pledge of as little as $1 per month. And every dollar helps to support the work that we're doing, particularly in light of the YouTube ad boycott, which has been really bad.